These scary cursed villages and places around the world hiding pure evil and tales of a time lost will absolutely leave you breathless and may give you nightmares. Hashima Island. Hashima Island, also known as Battleship Island and to some as the Island of the Ghosts, has a history associated with forced labor, especially during World War II, and the subsequent abandonment of the island after the decline of the coal industry. Many believe it's cursed and haunted, and while the island has a somber past, it's more accurately seen as a symbol of industrialization and the human cost of it. The buildings were built by Korean and Chinese prisoners who were forced to work here from 1930 to just after World War II. The conditions of these forced laborers were hard, and some never made it back home. Now, the people who worked here named the island Jail Island or even Hell Island. Now, after the war, the Japanese came to the island to work here themselves. The island had its peak population in 1959. More than 5,000 people worked and lived on Hashima Island. And because the island wasn't very big, this meant they had only a 5-foot living space each. Even though tourists are allowed to visit the island today, the echoes of the past still linger here, especially in the minds of the relatives of the forced laborers that have been forced to work there and inside the crumbling buildings. Fishermen who sail near the island claim they have seen strange flickering lights in the buildings. Even though the island has no electricity, strange noises have been heard and cold spots have been felt. People say, they have this sensation of being watched, and there are some claims of people that have been touched by unseen hands. Pripyat, Ukraine. Now, Pripyat is frequently described as a cursed city due to its abandonment following the Chernobyl disaster in 1986. The town, built to house workers at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, was evacuated after the accident due to a very high level of radiation and remains largely uninhibited to this day. Now, while not officially, cursed in a supernatural sense, some say, the term reflects the city's tragic history and the lingering effects of the nuclear accident. Chernobyl was cut off from the rest of the world and left to rot for decades. The nearby town of Pripyat was similarly affected, and all residents had to be evacuated. Some street artists and adventurers now explore the area since the radiation levels had dropped, but prolonged stays are still very harmful to people's health. The pictures of abandoned car dealerships are sure to give you the chills too. Poveglia Island in Italy. Now, nestled in the Venetian lagoon, Poveglia Island is often referred to as one of the most haunted and cursed places in the world. Its dark past, marked by doom, disease, and despair, has made it a local point for ghost stories and paranormal investigations. Now, though small and seemingly unassuming, Poveglia carries a very ominous, reputation that continues to draw the curious and the brave. Poveglia's haunted history begins during the bubonic plague in the 14th century. Venice, a very bustling trade hub, was frequently ravaged by outbreaks of the fatal disease. Now, to prevent the spread of infection, Poveglia was transformed into a quarantine island where those suspected of carrying the plague were actually forcibly sent away. Many who arrived on the island never left. They succumbed to the disease, their bodies buried in mass graves or burned. It is said that over 100,000 people passed away in Poveglia, their ashes mingling with the soil. Even today, locals claim that the ground is made up of more ash than earth. Okpo land in South Korea. Once one of the continent's most famous amusement parks, Okpo land became a ghost town almost overnight, and many people believe this place is cursed and haunted. It became abandoned and shut down when a cart on a duck-themed ride derailed and unalived a girl in 1999. It actually wasn't the first fatality to occur at Okpo land. At least one other person passed away on the exact same ride in the early 90s, but the park remained open. However, after the second fateful accident, the owner vanished and the theme park descended into disrepair. Now, it was, slated for demolition in 2011, and the land was earmarked for development, although apparently nothing has been built there yet, which is probably for the best because trespassers say they hear voices, see the shadow of the children running around, and claim they've even felt a general sense of unease the second they step foot there. The Island of the Dolls in Mexico City, Mexico. Now, the Island of the Dolls is a unique and very eerie tourist attraction located in the canals of Mexico City. The island's name comes from hundreds of old, broken, and mutilated dolls hanging from trees and scattered throughout the area. The story behind the dolls is rooted in local legend and folklore, with many believing the island is haunted. The story goes that a man named Don Santana Barrera lived on the island as a hermit. One day, he reportedly found the body of a drowned girl in the canals. Believing the doll was hers, he hung it up on a tree in memory of her and as a means of just appeasing her spirit. Now, over time, he began collecting and hanging more dolls, believing they would ward off evil spirits and calm the girl's spirit. Now, the Island of the Dolls is widely believed believed to be haunted and cursed, with locals claiming to hear whispers, see shadows, and even witness the dolls moving on their own. Some attribute the dolls' movements to the wind, of course, and the weakening of their wires over time, while others believe they are, caused by the spirits of the girl and Don Pereira. Many people have filmed their time being there, and it gives you goosebumps just watching it. Centralia, Pennsylvania. In 1962, a mysterious fire ignited from an unknown cause within the coal deposits below Centralia, Pennsylvania. Now, as long as burning coal is exposed to oxygen, it can continue to blaze and emit harmful gases for hundreds of years. Now, due to the sulfur and carbon monoxide seeping out of the mine, the town of 1,000 residents was evacuated in 1992, with only around a dozen people opting to actually stay in their homes. It became a complete ghost town, and many people visit there and say they can still smell the fire burning on the streets as they pass by. It's truly a very spooky story, enough to be one of the scariest urban legends. Bhangarh Fort. Now, the Bhangarh Fort is a 16th century fort built in the Rajasthan state of India. The town was established during the rule of Bhagwant Das as the residence of his second son, Madho Singh. Now, the fort and its precincts are well preserved. According to legend, a sadhu lived within the fort area, and according to his injunction, any house built in the precinct of the fort should not be taller than his own, and if the shadow of any such house fell on his house, it would result in destruction of the fort town. When columns were added to the fort that cast a shadow on the sadhu's house, the result was destruction of the fort and surrounding towns. Now, according to another tale, a priest who was a practitioner of black magic fell in love with a beautiful Bhangarh princess with many suitors. Now, one day the priest followed the princess to the marketplace and offered her a love potion. However, she refused it, throwing it onto a large rock that consequently rolled onto the priest and crushed him to his demise. Before he passed, the priest cursed the entire village, condemning it to destruction and desolation. Bodie, California. The epitome of an old west town, Bodie is one of the oldest ghost towns in America. In its heyday, it housed dozens of saloons and a rough crowd, which is putting it nicely. Still, it was a thriving, unruly place until two fires burned down the mills. After that, business halted and forced people to abandon Bodie, leaving it to, the dust and tumbleweeds. It actually became a state historic park in 1962 and still looks like a little slice of 19th century American history. Now, these small towns also look like they're frozen in time, but people still shockingly live in them. Cahawba, Alabama. Cahawba was actually Alabama's first state capital, but it was abandoned after just 46 years. Now, since it's located on the confluence of the Cahawba and Alabama rivers, flooding regularly overtook the town, destroying buildings and slowly, turning it back into wilderness. Economic trouble also took its toll, first as the state legislature was moved to Selma and later from the Civil War. Today, the abandoned city of Cahawba functions as a historical archaeological site, and it's one of the oldest historic towns that's said to be haunted and even potentially cursed. Well, have you been to any of these scary places? Let me know. Thanks for watching. I'm your host Ashley. Until next time, stay scared. These scary stories from America's most haunted ghost towns will send chills down your spine and give you nightmares. Jefferson, Texas. In eastern Texas near the Arkansas and Louisiana borders, would-be ghost hunters will run across the town of Jefferson and the haunted Jefferson Hotel. It's been in operation since the late 1800s. This historic hotel and one-time brothel has borne witness to a healthy dose of Texas history. The hotel started recording the guests' encounters with the ghost hauntings, its rooms and corridors, like the vanishing man who comes and goes and stomps around as he pleases in the hotel's Book of the Deceased. Now, a stay here could have you bumping into all kinds of tormented souls, including Judy, an adult entertainment worker, likely unalived in the hotel, allegedly. She now writes her name in the condensed steam left on mirrors after patrons take a hot shower. This hotel is known as the most haunted hotel in the world. Talk about terrifying, right?